Jackson was a human trader who worked in the dark corners of the galaxy. He was not rich, but he knew how to survive among dangerous aliens and shady deals. His small ship, the Star Raven, carried weapons, supplies, and sometimes things best not talked about one day. Jackson completed a risky job for a powerful alien warlord named Zorak. Zorak was tall, with thick green skin, sharp horns, and a voice that could shake the walls. Jackson delivered secret cargo to Zorak's fortress, hidden on a dusty planet. The job was difficult, but Jackson finished it without any mistakes. He was ready to collect his payment, expecting credits or rare metals. But Zorak had other plans. "I have something better than credits," human Zorak said with a grin. He waved his hand, and two guards dragged a figure into the room. It was a young alien girl. Her hands bound with metal cuffs, her clothes were torn. Her skin covered in dirt and bruises. She had pale blue skin, long silver hair, and strange glowing eyes that stared at the floor. "This is your payment," Zorak announced. "A slave, rare and exotic, you'll make a fortune selling her elsewhere. Or keep her if you wish." Jackson was shocked. He had never dealt in slaves. That was a line he didn't cross. He looked at the girl. She was thin, weak, but something in her posture looked proud. Like she refused to be broken. "I don't deal in people," Jackson said. But Zorak's guards tightened their grip on their weapons. "You'll take her, human," Zorak growled. "Or you'll leave with nothing, or not leave at all," Jackson weighed his options. He was alone, far from any help. He nodded reluctantly. "Fine, I'll take her," Jackson said. The guards threw the girl at his feet. She didn't cry or beg. She stood up slowly, her glowing eyes meeting Jackson's for a brief second. There was defiance in them, a silent strength, without another word. Jackson led her back to his ship. As soon as they were in space, Jackson unlocked her cuffs. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't answer. She just sat quietly in the corner of the ship, watching him with caution. Jackson sighed. "Look, I didn't ask for this. I don't want a slave. I'll drop you somewhere safe. All right?" Still, she said nothing. Hours passed, and she didn't sleep. She didn't eat much either instead. Jackson noticed she was observing everything. The ship, the controls, the weapons. It was like she understood technology deeply. At night, when Jackson pretended to sleep, he noticed her moving quietly. She approached one of the ship's control panels and started pressing buttons. But not randomly. She knew what she was doing. Jackson grabbed his blaster. "Hey, stop that!" he shouted. The girl froze. Her glowing eyes met his again. She looked scared but determined. "I won't harm your ship," she whispered for the first time. Her voice was soft but firm. "I was trying to send a message." "A message to who?" Jackson asked. She shook her head, refusing to answer. "You're not just any slave, are you?" Jackson said. "Who are you really?" She looked away, her face hard to read. "Call me Ara," she said finally. "That's all you need to know." Jackson lowered his blaster but didn't trust her yet. "All right, Ara, but if you try anything dangerous, I'll toss you out the airlock clear." She nodded, but there was a flicker of amusement in her eyes. The next day, while checking the ship's scanners, Jackson noticed something strange. There were ships nearby, but they weren't pirates or traders. They were scouts, scanning every vessel that passed. It was like they were searching for someone. Jackson's instincts kicked in. He looked at Ara. She was still silent, watching the stars through the window. "Who are you hiding from, Ara?" Jackson whispered to himself. He had a feeling he was in deeper trouble than he thought. That night, as the Star Raven floated silently in space, Jackson couldn't shake the feeling that his unexpected payment was more valuable and dangerous than any credits could ever be. And deep inside, Ara knew it too. She was no ordinary slave. She was something far more important, and the galaxy was already hunting for her. Jackson tried to keep his distance from the alien girl named Ara, but something about her kept pulling his attention. She didn't cry, she didn't beg, and she didn't ask for help. Instead, she watched everything carefully, like a silent rebel planning her escape. Jackson had seen many slaves before, but none acted like her. Ara sat with her, back straight, her eyes always alert. She didn't behave like a broken captive. She acted like someone waiting for the right moment. Days passed on the Star Raven. Jackson started noticing small things. Some tools were slightly moved. Wires had been touched. Security codes looked like they'd been tested, but there were no alarms, no damage. Ara was doing something, but he couldn't catch her in the act. One day, while repairing the engine, Jackson heard soft humming. He peeked around the corner, and there was Ara, sitting near the control console. She was humming an ancient tune, not common in any alien species he knew. Her voice was hauntingly beautiful. He stepped closer. "Where'd you learn that song?" Ara stopped, her eyes flashing with annoyance. "Nowhere," she said sharply. "Forget it." Jackson crossed his arms. "I'm not stupid, Ara. You're not a slave. Not really." "What are you? A spy? A rebel leader?" She smirked. "I'm nothing you would understand, human. Try me," Jackson replied. She stood up slowly, her thin form still commanding a strange dignity. "Let me go, and you'll stay alive," she said coldly. Jackson chuckled. "Not gonna happen, princess." The moment the word princess slipped from his mouth, Ara's eyes widened just for a second before her face turned cold again. That was all Jackson needed. A reaction. "I knew it," he muttered. "You're more than a slave, aren't you?" Ara turned away, refusing to speak further. That night, as Jackson pretended to sleep, he heard the ship's systems beep softly. He jumped up and caught Ara with her hands inside the comms panel. "You're sending a message again, aren't you?" he shouted. "I have to," she hissed. "They'll find me soon anyway. I have to warn my people." "Warn them about what?" Jackson demanded. She stared at him, her face serious and tired. "If they find me here, they'll kill us both. They won't let me live, and they won't leave witnesses." "Who are they?" Jackson asked, but Ara stayed quiet before he could push more. Alarms suddenly blared across the ship. Incoming vessels detected, fast, hostile, armed. Jackson ran to the cockpit. Scanners showed 2 sleek black ships approaching fast. They weren't pirates. Their designs were too advanced. Ara stood behind him, her voice calm. "You're here for me. You need to run, or you'll die with me." Jackson gritted his teeth. "You're a real pain, you know that?" Without waiting, he powered the engines and jerked the ship into a sudden escape route. The enemy ships gave chase, firing lasers that shook the Star Raven. Jackson's ship wasn't a fighter, but he knew space like the back of his hand. He dived into an asteroid field, dodging between rocks and ice. The enemy ship struggled to follow. Ara held onto the walls, watching him fly with skill and madness. "Why are you helping me?" she asked suddenly. "You could have handed me over and saved yourself." Jackson glanced at her. "I hate people who think they own others." "That's enough reason." For a moment, Ara smiled faintly, but it vanished just as fast. After a dangerous chase, Jackson finally lost the enemy ships, but it was clear they weren't done hunting. Breathing heavily, Jackson faced Ara. "Now you're going to tell me everything, or I'll throw you out the airlock right now." Ara looked at him, her eyes glowing softly. "Fine," she whispered. "I'm not a slave. I'm Princess Aravel of the Sarathian Empire. I was kidnapped and sold, and now my enemies are hunting me to finish what they started." Jackson stared at her in shock. A princess? In his ship? A slave who was royalty in disguise? "Great," Jackson muttered. "I'm in deeper trouble than I thought." And so, the human traitor and the hidden princess sat together in the cold light of space, knowing the galaxy was about to get a lot more dangerous. Jackson sat in the cockpit, staring at Ara as her words echoed in his mind. A princess, he thought, a real royal princess on my ship. He had smuggled many things before: weapons, forbidden tech, even alien pets, but royalty, that was a first. He rubbed his temples, knowing this was the kind of trouble you couldn't just fly away from. Ara sat on a crate nearby, her hands resting on her knees. She wasn't scared. Instead, she watched the stars outside, her mind clearly racing with, "Thoughts all right, princess?" Jackson finally said, "Explain everything, and no more half-truths." Ara looked at him, her glowing eyes calm but serious. "My name is Aravel Vera Sarathis, heir to the Sarathian Empire," she said. "My family controls an ancient power that keeps balance in our part of the galaxy. She paused, her voice low. But my uncle betrayed us. He wanted the throne. He hired mercenaries to kidnap me, hiding my existence from my people. They kept me drugged, weak, and passed me from one warlord to another. Hoping I'd disappear, Jackson clenched his fists. And Zorak had no idea who you really were? Ara shook her head. No, he just knew I was valuable. He didn't know why. Now these hunters, they work for your uncle? Jackson asked. Yes, Ara replied. They'll follow us until I'm dead or captured. And if they catch me, they'll kill you too. They won't leave anyone who knows the truth. Jackson paced the floor, his mind spinning. He could abandon her now, save his own life, but deep inside, he knew he wouldn't. Why didn't you just tell me from the start? Jackson asked. Ara smiled faintly. Would you have believed me? He sighed. Good point. Suddenly, the ship's scanners beeped. Jackson looked at the screen. 3 ships approaching fast. More of the same black hunters, they're back, Jackson muttered. He gripped the controls. Hang on. The Star Raven roared through space, Jackson weaving between asteroid belts and debris fields. But the hunters were fast, their ships built for chasing and killing, their locking weapons. Ara shouted, gripping a seat. Jackson cursed. I can't outrun them forever. My ship's too slow. Ara's eyes glowed brighter. There's a hidden Sarathian outpost nearby. I can guide you, but only if you trust me like I have. A choice, Jackson snapped. Where? She rushed to the console and entered coordinates. The ship's autopilot adjusted course. Leading them toward an uncharted nebula, the hunters fired plasma shots, grazing the Star Raven. Sparks flew inside. The cockpit alarm screamed. Jackson pushed the ship harder. We're not going to make it, he shouted. Wait. Era closed her eyes, concentrating suddenly. Parts of the ship's interface glowed with strange symbols. The engines pulsed stronger, faster. What the hell? Jackson gasped. I'm connected to ancient tech, part of my bloodlines. Ability, Era explained. I can boost systems for a short time. With a burst of speed, the Star Raven shot into the nebula. The hunters lost visual. Their scanners blinded by the gas clouds inside the nebula, a giant metal structure appeared. Hidden in the mist, a forgotten Sarathian station, Jackson stared in awe. That's... Ancient Era smiled weakly. It's one of our secret sanctuaries. My ancestors built these 4 times of war. They docked quickly. The station's system still responding to Ara's presence. Inside the air was cold, but breathable. Glowing lights activated as they walked. You've got a lot to explain, Princess, Jackson said. Ara looked at him, her expression firm. I will, but know this now, that you've helped me. You're part of this, whether you like it or not. Jackson chuckled bitterly. Figures, I always did have bad luck. Outside the nebula, the hunters regrouped. Knowing they had lost the trail, but their leader, a cold mercenary with a scar across his face, smiled darkly. She can't hide forever, he whispered, and when we find her, the human dies first. Back on the station, Jackson and Ara prepared for what was coming. Both knew this was just the beginning of a chase that could change the fate of the galaxy itself. The ancient Sarathian station hummed softly, lights glowing like the heartbeat of something old and wise. Jackson walked down the wide metallic halls, his footsteps echoing. The air was heavy with history. Symbols carved into the walls in a language he couldn't read. Era walked ahead of him, her hand brushing gently across the walls, as if the station remembered her. Doors opened automatically. Wherever she passed, Jackson watched her carefully. How are you doing that? The ship's systems, this station, they all respond to you. Why? Ara stopped and turned, her glowing eyes serious. Because of my blood, she said softly. Sarathian royals aren't just born with power. We are designed, our ancestors. We're genetic architects. They shaped us to bond with ancient technology. It recognizes us, protects us, and obeys us. Jackson raised an eyebrow. You're saying you're a living key to all of this? Yes, Ara replied. That's why my uncle wants me dead without me. No one can access the old technology fully, but with me, he could control it and control the galaxy. Jackson shook his head. I was just trying to make a living. Now I'm in the middle of a royal war. Era gave him a faint smile. You could still run. You've done more than anyone. You don't have to stay. Jackson chuckled dryly. If I wanted to run, I would have done it already. Besides, I'd rather fight than live with the guilt of selling out a girl who's trying to survive. For the first time, Ara looked genuinely touched. She didn't say thank you, but her eyes softened. They reached the central chamber of the station. A giant throne-like chair sat at the center, surrounded by floating holograms. Era approached and sat on it. Immediately lights flickered, and a giant map of the galaxy hovered above them. This, Era said, pointing, is where my empire ruled. We brought peace through strength. But if my uncle controls this network, he'll bring fear instead. Jackson studied the map, and you think we can stop him? With the right help, Era said. But we can't do it alone. We need allies. And there's one place we can start the outer clans. They're old friends of my family. If we can reach them, they'll protect us. Jackson nodded. All right, where are they? Ara tapped the map, but her face tensed. They're far. And we'll have to cross territories controlled by bounty hunters. The ones chasing us will expect us to run this way. Jackson sighed. Of course they will. Nothing's ever easy. Suddenly, the station's sensors beeped. A warning flashed on the screen. Enemy ships scanning the edge of the nebula. They're getting closer, Jackson muttered. We don't have much time. Era stood up, her voice steady. Then we leave now. The longer we stay, the harder it'll be to escape before leaving. Ara touched the station's core controls, muttering in her language. The station dimmed. Hiding itself again within the nebula, they ran back to the Star Raven, powering it up. Jackson took the pilot's seat while Era monitored sensors. You're good at this, Jackson commented. I was trained for war. Diplomacy. In command since I was a child, Ara said. But I never thought I'd be running for my life. Jackson smiled. Life's funny like that, princess. As the ship lifted off, Ara glanced at him. You don't have to call me princess all the time. Just Ara is fine. All right, Ara, Jackson said with a grin. But if we survive this, I'm going to ask for a royal reward. Ara chuckled softly, but deep inside, she knew the road ahead was deadly. Her uncle's reach was vast. Every bounty hunter in the galaxy was hunting her now. But for the first time since her capture, she didn't feel completely alone. There was a stubborn human beside her. And that meant she still had a chance outside in the cold darkness of space. The hunt continued, and the fate of an empire rested in the hands of a rogue trader and a hidden princess. Asterisk. The Star Raven cut through the cold of space. Its engines humming low to avoid detection, Jackson piloted with care, but his mind was heavy. The galaxy was big. Yet nowhere felt safe anymore. Era sat beside him, her gaze sharp. We'll need help. If we're to reach the outer clans, she said. Jackson nodded. I know someone. A friend from my mercenary days. He might still owe me a favor. Can we trust him? Ara asked, her voice cautious. Jackson smiled. If the pay is right or the danger is big enough, yeah, we can. They plotted a course to a shadowy world called Ventaros, a hidden port where mercenaries, smugglers, and exiles gathered. The planet was covered in thick clouds, its surface a maze of dark cities and neon lights. As they landed, Jackson looked at Era. Keep your hood up. This place eats weakness for breakfast. They stepped out into the crowded streets, where aliens of all shapes and sizes moved. Weapons were everywhere. Danger was a normal part of life. Here, Jackson led Ara to an underground bar glowing with red lights. The smell of oil, smoke, and alien drinks filled the air. At the back of the bar sat a broad-shouldered man with cybernetic arms. Cade. It's an old human soldier. Cade, Jackson called, approaching cautiously. The man looked up, his mechanical eyes scanning Jackson, then he smiled. Jackson, you son of a gun. Didn't think I'd see you again. Didn't think I'd come back either. Jackson replied. Cade stood, shaking Jackson's hand with a metal grip. Then his eyes fell on Ara. He frowned. Who's the girl? Jackson glanced at Ara, then back at Cade. The kind of trouble that needs a soldier. She's royalty. and half the galaxy wants her dead. Cade's brow raised. Royalty? You're serious? Dead serious, Jackson confirmed. Era lowered her hood, just enough for Cade to see her glowing eyes. Something in his expression changed, a flicker of recognition. You're Sarathian, Cade muttered. I thought your kind were legends, but you're real. Era nodded. And if I die, so does my empire. Cade leaned back, thinking I was done with wars, Jackson, but this is bigger. We need your help, Cade, Jackson said. We need to get to the outer clans and fight back, Cade chuckled darkly. Then you'll need more than just me. You'll need training, weapons, and a damn good plan. For the next few days, they stayed hidden in Vintaro's. Cade trained Era, teaching her combat techniques she never learned in royal halls. She was fast, but unused to real fights. Jackson learned too, brushing up his old skills. At night, Cade shared news. Your uncle's got bounty hunters everywhere. Even humans, the price on your head is sky high. Era didn't flinch. Let them come. We'll be ready. One evening, as they prepared to leave, a shadow moved in the bar's corner. An alien assassin lunged at Era, a dagger glowing. With venom, Jackson reacted first, firing his blaster and hitting the assassin in the chest. The bar erupted in chaos, but Cade's reputation kept the rest from joining the fight. Ara stood, her eyes burning with anger. They found me even here, Jackson. Helped her up. We can't stay. We leave now, with Cade on board. The Star Raven blasted off Ventaros. They left the shadows of the city behind. But the danger was growing. In the cockpit, Cade looked at them both. You're not just running anymore. You're starting a war, whether you like it or not. Jackson nodded grimly. Then we better make sure we win. Era sat silently, but inside, her resolve hardened. She wasn't just running, she was preparing to reclaim her throne and make her enemies pay, far behind them. In the deepest corners of space, the bounty hunters regrouped. Their leader smiled coldly. Run, little princess. The hunt's only just begun. The Star Raven streaked through space, its crew now stronger, a rogue human traitor, a hidden princess, and a battle-hardened soldier. But no matter how fast they flew, Jackson knew time was running out. Cade stood by the weapon controls, checking the ship's defenses. They'll catch us soon, he said. They always do. Era sat in the command chair, her eyes closed. She was connecting with the ancient Sarathian tech embedded in the ship. She was quiet, but inside her mind systems hummed and circuits awakened. Suddenly alarms blared. Cade cursed. They've found us. 3 black hunter ships appeared on the scanners, sleek and deadly. Jackson tightened his grip on the controls. We can't outrun them this time. Era opened her eyes, glowing brighter than ever. Then we don't run, she said calmly. We fight. Jackson's eyes widened. Fight. In this junk bucket. Ara smiled. Not junk. Not anymore. She pressed her hand against the ship's core interface. The lights shifted. The hum of the engines deepened. The Star Raven began to transform. Panels shifted. Hidden weapons emerged. Energy shields powered up. Cade stared, impressed. You never told me your ship could do that? Jackson shook his head. It couldn't until now. The hunters closed in. Their leader, a scarred mercenary named Vark, opened a channel. His voice crackled through. The speakers, end of the line, princess, hand her over, and I might let the humans live. Jackson grinned. You want her? Come take her. With that, the battle began. The Star Raven, now powered by Era's connection to the ship, fought like never before. Jackson dodged plasma blasts. Cade fired precise shots that tore into enemy shields. Era stood in the center. Her mind linked to the ship's ancient systems. She guided energy flows, boosted the shields at the right moments, and overloaded enemy weapons when she could. Vark's ships circled like wolves. But the Star Raven fought like a beast awakened. Explosions lit the darkness of space, debris floating as the hunters struggled on the final approach. Vark himself boarded with a squad, guns blazing. Cade and Jackson met them head-on in the tight corridors of the ship. Blasters fired, walls shook. Era didn't hide. she stepped into the fight. Her hands glowing with the energy of her ancestors, she raised her arm, and with a burst of light, "Disabled Vark's cybernetic implants," he screamed, collapsing to his knees. "You thought I was weak," Ara said, her voice cold, "but you forgot I am Sarathian." With one final shot, Cade took down the last hunter. The ship fell silent, smoke and sparks filling the air. Jackson leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. "We won. ... Ara smiled faintly. "Not yet." She returned to the command deck and activated the long-range transmitter. She sent a signal, her royal identification, her proof of survival, and her call for aid. Across the galaxy, the message echoed. The Sarathian Empire, thought leaderless, heard the voice of their lost princess. Soon, messages returned, fleets rallying to her side. Allies awakening from the shadows. "We have friends now," Ara said. "And my uncle will soon know his mistake," Jackson smiled, exhausted but proud. "Told you I'd ask for a royal reward. I want to see that throne when you sit on it. You'll have a place there." "Jackson," Ara promised, "you both will." As the Star Raven sailed towards the outer clans, the crew knew the real war was still coming. But for the first time, hope burned brighter than fear. And the galaxy was about to witness the return of its true princess with humans by her side, asked ChatGPT. The Star Raven glided through the stars, its hull scarred, but still strong inside. The air was calm for the first time in days. Jackson stood by the window, staring at the endless galaxy ahead. He had flown these paths countless times, but now everything felt different. Ara walked in quietly, her silver hair falling freely. She looked stronger now, her eyes bright with purpose. She was no longer just the silent girl in chains. She was a leader. "You look peaceful," she said softly, standing beside Jackson first. "Time and weeks I'm not being shot at," he chuckled. "Feels strange." Ara smiled faintly. "We're headed to the outer clans. They'll join us. I can feel it. Soon we'll have the strength to face my uncle." Jackson nodded. "You'll have your empire back." Ara was silent for a moment, then looked at him. "And what about you, Jackson? When this is over, what will you do?" Jackson shrugged. "I'm a traitor. I'll go back to the stars. Maybe find a quieter corner of the galaxy." "You could stay," Ara offered, her voice gentle. "I'll need people I can trust, friends, who stood by me when I was nothing." Jackson turned to face her, their eyes meeting. "Royal court life isn't really my style, Ara. I'm not meant for thrones or politics." Ara looked disappointed but understanding. "Then promise me one thing." "What's that?" Jackson asked. "Don't disappear," she said. "You've changed my fate. I want to know where the stars take you next." Jackson smiled warmly. "You've got a deal, princess." Cade entered the room, breaking the moment. "We've got incoming, but friendly this time." "Looks like your message worked. Fleets are gathering." Ara's face brightened. "Then it begins. The fight to reclaim my throne." Jackson patted her shoulder. "You'll win, Ara. You're tougher than you look, and you're braver than you admit," she replied, her smile returning. As the Star Raven flew toward the rally point of the outer clans, Jackson felt a strange mix of pride and sadness. He had started as a simple trader, but now he was part of something greater. Maybe one day, he thought, he'd return to the courts of Sarathea, not as a stranger, but as the human who helped a princess rise again. For now, the stars awaited him, and for Ara, the throne of an empire was just within reach, and this time she would not be alone.